Hi, Tim Wilmot here, and this is a compilation of attendee paintings from my August online workshop. Every month, watercolor enthusiasts from all over the world join me for approximately a couple of hour paint-along experience where I do a step-by-step demo and answer your questions along the way to hopefully create a nice looking painting. So last month we painted Vila Moura in Portugal, on the southern coast of Portugal, a street scene with some tricky perspective, as in these buildings. We're looking down, we're basically looking down on the site. We're not at the same level as these people looking down, so quite a tricky perspective to deal with. We want to look at, when we go through the attendee paintings, we want to look at getting the perspective right of the base level of the back of the street there, and then a nice curve as we're going around the corner of this street. And these figures, that they will help us in our own minds work out the perspective and the height that we're at. So I talk about in my workshop the way to handle that perspective, little tips and tricks I've got to handle this scene. Also, we covered figure drawing, and the other thing was shadows, trying to create some nice looking shadows. So for example, that whole back of that building is in shade, and then we've got these lovely shadows. Let me just remove these drawings. We've got these lovely shadows coming out at an angle which I describe in my painting in the workshop, was an attraction of the scene, that sort of pattern created by those parasols, umbrellas. Quite a pleasing pattern going across the road, these long shadows, like the fingers of a hand going across the street. Yep, so we all had a go on the day. We had quite a few attendees, well over 100 attendees. And the thing is, you don't need to paint in my style. It's very interesting to see everyone's interpretation of the same scene. And the workshop is open to painters of all levels, beginners and advanced. You're all welcome. So let me take you through my painting first of all. I'll be up front and show you my meagre effort. So this is my painting done on the day, and you can see that I've moved the people around a little bit just to help with the composition, and I achieved what I wanted to do with the shadow shapes and the direction of shadows. I think I got the perspective about right. I simplified the top of that building there. Have a lovely bit of darkness behind that building, casting some nice shadows across the grass between these two buildings. The scene was quite wide as well, so I had to condense it a little bit and think more about composition and what to include, what to exclude. Well, the main thing was moving the people around. It didn't quite suit the scene where some of the people were placed and the direction they were walking. But I'm quite pleased with the parasols and these umbrellas over there on the left-hand side. And then the trees, we did a few little bits of dry brush marks to create those palm fronds coming out from the crown. We've got the sort of feather palm tree there and the fan palms lurking in the shadows. So I'll show you the attendee paintings then, one by one, give a short critique on each one. Please, this is just my own opinion. Of course, with art, one person may really like a painting, another person may hate it. That's art for you. If you do want to take part, you can see all of my events at www.crowdcast.io/Tim Wilmot. The details will be in the description. Go down below, to the description. You'll see more information about that. But first of all, check out these lovely paintings from the attendees from the August workshop. And let's see how they got it. And check out their individual styles, the way they approached it. You'll be amazed how everyone does it in a subtly different ways. So it'd be good to know what is your favourite out of the compilation I've got for you. Adele D, thanks for sending me your painting, Adele. You certainly got the perspective, I think, brilliantly. We've got the feeling of going down the street there. Nice curve of the road as well. Maybe we need a bit of background in here. It looks like this could be a bit of a cliff, and we're about to jump off that edge there. It needs something in the background there, but everything else is very good. I like the stripes on the blinds. The figures are very good as well, and that you've got those shadows. Maybe with the shadows we could be. That one's okay. This one needs to be a bit more sort of thicker, probably. Yeah, thicker. Yeah, well done, Adele. Then we've got Alberto. Right. Let me think about this one. I like the trees. I like the some I think is a bit overworked there on the back of that bit, but I actually quite like those horizontal lines you've got, Alberto, in there. Great figures. You've paid attention to their clothing. You know, it's not in my style, but as I said earlier, you don't need to copy my style. It's just the main thing is to have a bit of fun. I really like these figures. You've got the perspective, brilliant. We've certainly got the feeling of looking down the scene here, and you've sneaked in some figures into the cafe there. There's some cafes running along the side here. Well done on these umbrellas as well. Brilliant. I like the surface texture you got into the road. Yeah, well done, Alberto. Possibly a little bit overworked in the background there. The trees, minimal thing. Well done. Anna, I think we've got a few Annas. Have we? No, just Anna B. Yeah, maybe when you took the photo, Anna, it was a little bit dark in the right-hand corner, but we can see what's going on. So you've got a really nice, bright umbrellas down in the bottom left corner. Good handling on the perspective. Probably not, we don't need that. It looks like there's a bit of a curve going on there, that shadow. So these shadows are a tiny bit overworked. Figures are great, but shadows just a little bit overworked and maybe a bit too grey as well. But you got the perspective right. Figures are fantastic. I like these two down here. Very nice. You've got the sunglasses, you've got the shades on as well. And this figure. But that figure is really good because it's a light figure against a dark background. I like that one. Yeah, well done. Well done. Anna. And we have, hopefully I pronounced the name right, Bahare. And this is delightful. It looks very loose. Look at the sky that we've got in here. And these, I actually quite like these little dots. It gives a nice sort of sparkly feel about it, a fresh feel about it. So you've got the perspective, brilliant, I think. Shadows, very nice as well. Nothing overworked. I like the colours that you've got into the building there. These figures are very good as well. I personally wouldn't have figures like these two down here, right in the right-hand corner. All right, and also with the figures, try and avoid, you painted around the complete shape of the figure, so we end up with sort of white Like you may have got away with that one there, but this one here with the white on the right-hand side, you know, away from the direction of light, and that figure there. Although that figure walking from right to left looks brilliant. Well done. I hope I pronounced your name okay. Now this one I actually put in brackets there because this attendee actually helped me by the pronunciation of the name. Bahire. I hope I got that name right. So, perspective, good. Yeah, very nice. We've got the curve of the street. You've got those parasols done really well. Smaller ones in the background of figures, very nice. These two down here look as if the lady looks like she's peering against the sun, and that figure there, these figures are brilliant. Perhaps the blinds on the far side there, a little bit too perfect. Perhaps we could maybe not see all of these supports. So introduce some randomness in your brush marks, just to, because that was very busy, the far side there, lots of little sort of cafes and restaurants. So just watch that. Shadows are good though. I like shadows. I particularly like the green that you've got there, and good job on the palm trees. Thanks very much indeed. Next up, Barb. Really bright scene. Great colours on that background building, Barb. You've laid down, you've got a good handling of watercolor techniques, I know. So that the way that you've laid down the sky there, beautiful green on the grass, and the way that you laid down the wash coming in to the street. Perspective, I think you've got well with the figures. Again, excuse me, again, with the figures, consider painting particularly over the body. So if we're painting the street, paint over the body so we don't have these little sort of white bits appearing on the wrong side. You get away with it if those white bits are on the left-hand side, but you know the sun's coming from the left, and the little white bits on the feet there. I just think they stand out just a little bit too much, and there's like a sort of halo around that figure there. But everything else really nice. Yeah, particularly like that red you got in, and the way you did the sky, bit of granulation happening there. And palm trees look good as well. Very realistic. Well done, Barb. Barry M. So, let's say this is a different style to mine. This is a bit more detailed, very precise lines, very accurate lines that Barry's got in. Maybe Barry is or was an architect. You've done very well on this building drawing. So perspective is 100% correct in my mind. Figures very nice as well. You've got in, to my mind, maybe a little bit too much detail. You know, the ties and so on, but they're good from a composition point of view. Very good figures. Shadows. Now, I would have thought maybe, Barry, we could get some darker shadow on this building here for a bit more, for a range of values. Similar to these shadows, all right, going across the ground, and they look really good with the shape that you've got there, like a sort of wedge, and the way that it goes around the corner. So do that. And also the palm trees look a little bit too weak. Perhaps they could be with your brush, maybe with a larger brush, get in, like that tree there, that's very good. But if that was like bigger, this one here, that might have a bit more impact, make it look a bit more like a palm tree. Well done, Barry. And next, BT. Oh, it's probably Betty. Do apologise. I think that should be Betty. I'll put down BTF. Betty. Well done, Betty. My first impression, I'm looking at those trees and the birds. Looks like a gunshot has gone off and all these birds have escaped from the canopy of the trees. Paints a little story. I think you've sneaked in a building on the left-hand side, which actually works from a composition point of view. You've got a nice sort of framing of that side. I know there was a building on this side, which I don't think you've got in. Doesn't matter. So nice composition. I think with those shadows, Betty, try and use a bigger brush with a good point to it. Some of these shadows look a tiny bit overworked, and we've got like round corners to them, no nice sharpness to them. And likewise with some of the figures, like that figure there, that might benefit from a brush with a better point. But the figures themselves, they're painting a story. This nice figure in the middle there with the dog and these people in the cafe. I personally, when I did my painting, I couldn't really see many people in the cafe, but you've sort of changed the angle of that corner and sneaked in a few people there, which works. It creates a nice balance. I think all those people, they balance the trees in the top half. Yeah, so a bit overworked on some of the shadows, I think, there, Betty. Well done. Right, Beverly. It's a nice, sharp photo. Perspective, very good. Got the feeling of looking down on the scene. Good handling of watercolor techniques. Maybe the shadows were done with a little bit too dry a brush. And also, you know, a common thing that we've seen, and maybe we'll see in other attendee paintings as well, these white lines appearing around the figures. These figures, these two down here, they're really nice. I like those. Well, all the figures are very good. So just watch that white line and the dry brush marks on some of the shadows there. But very bright. You've certainly got the feeling of bright sunlight coming through there, Beverly. Nice one. Bill W. Very precisely painted parasols in the left-hand corner here. It's quite a nice sort of geometric pattern to those, all those sort of triangles. That's quite nice from a design point of view. But you've got the perspective really good. You've paid a lot more attention to the rooftops on that building, which I think works. You've captured that the colour of the rooftops really well, and the sky. So the two standout things for me here: the sky, these sort of light clouds that you've got in there, and the pattern of those umbrellas. Figures are really good. Just watch maybe a bit too. Can't really tell. You have to I have to apologise to some attendees if I say some of the shadows are a bit black, because the trouble is a photograph is going to distort the colours, and the screen I'm looking on right now could further distort the true hue of what I see. So please, I do apologise. Figures though, brilliant. Yeah, well done, Bill. Bix. Nice, colourful scene, lively, great sky. That sky's got some atmosphere. Look at all the colours that Bix has been able to get into that, the yellows and blues little bit of alizarin as well. Perspective. You've actually spent a lot of time doing this initial drawing, I think, Bix, and it works really. The detail on the rooftop, the balconies, these sort of trim along the terrace here above on the first floor, and a lot of the detail on that. I particularly like, although they may not be an exact formation of shadows on these shop blinds, but that works really well. I think all those lines that you've got in there, and the nice. So great sky, great trees, and the figures very nice as well. I would also, no, you haven't got any white, that sneaky white going in around the figures. Yeah, the figures look good. Nice placement. You've got those massive balls in there. That must have been really heavy for someone to move those in. Yeah, very nice pics. Very atmospheric. Yeah, very, well, and very bright. Great shadows. Well done. Brian K. Now, Brian, it got on the perspective, that top is okay, but maybe the base of the building is a little too steep, just by a tiny bit, and try and also not make the blind too perfect in shape as well. It is difficult to try and introduce some irregularities in those shapes. So I know it can be difficult. You've got in a nice lot of figures, all different as well. Perhaps with the figures, they're all got a similar stance. So maybe have some of them with the legs together, possibly, or walking in different directions when you've got so many, but the figures are really good. The rest of the perspective is brilliant. I like the green. I like the green there on that grass, very bright. And that sky as well. It's light over here, darker over here. Yeah, well done, Brian. Let me get rid of those drawing lines. Bronwyn. Very cool picture. It's loose. You've made more of a feature, Bronwyn, of these the cafe here on the corner, and these parasols. You've gone over to the middle part of the scene, and that actually works quite well. The danger is we may need to have something over on the right hand side to balance. You've got these lovely trees that you've done. I really like those trees, and the loose way that you've done the figures in the cafe. You haven't bothered with all the legs and the tables and the chairs. None of all that clutter. Maybe just needs something possibly on the right hand side, but really nice loose painting, fantastic trees, and great idea extending over. This is what I mean about looking at a photograph, is trying to change things to suit what you want to do in that painting. What are your objectives? Yeah, and nice shadows as well there, Bronwyn. Great, well done. Next up is Calvin. Now I know Calvin. Calvin's is a member of my Patreon club, where we do monthly projects, and Calvin actually gets in more colours than anyone else into the scene. Look at these. It's very. You've changed a lot of details. You've gone quite sort of contemporary. Possibly from a composition point of view, we've got quite a lot happening down here, Calvin. Maybe that could be more, because you've cut off the top of that building. Maybe consider, just an idea, consider moving the scene up so that at the moment the horizon line is sort of there. Maybe move it there So we're getting more of the foreground. But you can still get in your fantastic colours there, all the colours. But I like the colours, very nice. And perhaps we could have made more of a play of the figures as well. Just have maybe a few light figures down there. But yeah, my main thing with this is all the detail, all this lovely detail down here where it's a bit too low. Maybe consider moving it up a little bit. But well done, Calvin. Great colours that you've got on that one. Carolyn. Right, perspective. Let me look at this. I like the painting. As I'm looking down from the top, the sky is fantastic. A bit like Bix earlier, you've got in some great colours in there. And more intense on the right-hand side, like the trees. I think there's a bit of a slope. Is there a bit of a slope on this? So possibly you've got that line there. I'm not sure if it's the way you took the photograph, but possibly, Carolyn, if we had the base level like that, but it doesn't detract from a really nice painting. Figures, brilliant. I think they look really nice, those two figures there, and the dog leading them on. We've got a couple of dogs here. Shadows on the left-hand side. These umbrellas could be a bit bigger, possibly. And the shadows are just a tiny bit overworked. Again, did you, like somebody else, did you go over twice maybe on the shadow? I'm trying to actually look now more closely. Or maybe not, but just try not to overwork things too much. But I think that looks like a really bright scene. The shadows going across the grass, they're good. And those palm trees, they're really nice as well. Really loosely done. In fact, they are two fantastic looking palm trees there, and that one here. The thing with these palm trees, you do them really quickly, these leaf fronds. The more you muck about with painting every single leaflet and frond, that's when you lose that freshness. Yeah, well done, Carolyn. And Chin. This is quite pale. So maybe, but you've got a good handling of the perspective. That's brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. And watercolor techniques. You've laid down that sky there. The base wash as well. Figures are good. Shadows may be a little bit too dark and overworked a tiny bit, but you've got in the right range of values. I just think it needs a bit of colour in it. Maybe some red and yellows or something like that. You could almost, when the painting's done, just pick up a bit of red paint or yellow paint with a very small brush, just put in some splashes here and there. There could be somebody lurking in the shadows or something for sale in a shop. So just to get a bit more colour into it. You've got a bit of pinkness there. Yes, and just to make it a little bit brighter. But everything else, fantastic. Well done, Chin. And Ching, very good perspective. Figures, very nice. I think it looks very similar to my figure, my figure configuration, if that's the correct way of describing it, from my painting. So nice balance. We've got that line there of figures. We've got that line there of figures. I think that would help, certainly leading the viewer into the center of the scene. Perspective brilliant. Handling of the watercolor techniques very good. I just would say maybe those trees there, I was looking over on the left hand side, those trees maybe just a little bit too dry a brush mark possibly, and try and get a bit of the curve of the palm tree, all right, rather than a spiky yucca type thing. But everything else is really nice. I like the figures, good range of values, brilliant sky. Perspective is very well done. Just watch the overworking the shadows. Perhaps you've gone over them a couple of times. Ching, try and do more than one. As big a brush you got with a good sharp edge. Right, Christine. Now, perspective is nearly there. Perhaps we need a bit more, Christine, a bit more of a slope on that building there. And then the base, because we're looking down on the scene, the base slopes, the base of the building slopes very gently from top left to right. So you're nearly there. Everything else though, I like it. Good sky, lay down the wash. Maybe not bother with that dark line on the top of the building. Consider, as you've done there, that's good, where you've got the sky coming down and then the building, rather than outlining things, just keep it nice and fresh. Yeah, and then the shadows maybe go a bit bolder and some straighter lines for these shadows. So as I was trying to do in my rendition, these shadows going a bit like that, rather than, I think you might have gone over them a couple of times perhaps. So just watch that. But the figures, very nice, good size of figures as well. Certainly got the, you certainly have the feeling of looking down the scene. Oh, other thing I've noticed, sneak in the background buildings, like we saw with Adeles earlier on, get in a weak value. That's something you can add on at a later stage, because it's your painting dark on top of light. Maybe just have some sort of buildings there in the background, just so that we've got a feeling of the town. You know, the sea is that way, and then we're going inland that way. We want to see more buildings over there. Right, thanks very much, Christine. Dan, very colourful. All these figures. You win the prize so far for the number of figures on the scene. Perspective looks really good. I like the way you've got more of a random placement of these parasols as well, these umbrellas. You've deliberately kept the edges very basic. Great colours that you managed to get into the scene. Yeah, the sky's really nice. What else? I'm not sure about this middle area here. What I think somehow some of these blinds need to be connected. They look like they're sort of floating. So maybe consider a bit more darkness in certain areas, Dan, just to kind of connect those blinds to the scene. Possibly maybe a bit too dark down there on the left-hand side, unless of course it was something creating a shadow down there. Yeah, but I like it. These figures are really great. Also maybe have some buildings over here on the right-hand side. Yeah, well done, Dan. Like it. Well done. Lovely. And actually, these palm trees, they work quite well. They're maybe not sort of palm trees. They look more tropical, these palm trees that you've painted there, but very realistic. Yeah, well done, Dan. David J. Very loose. I know David's style. He's another Patreon member. Very loose. Yeah, nice and fresh feeling to it. The sort of marks that you've got down here. Some people would say, is that overworked? If I'm looking, my eyes now look in this area here, and these little marks that you've got, that you've made, I guess, with a smaller brush, with thicker paint as well, perhaps a bit of white, perhaps a bit of light red. For me, that works. Very loose, maybe tiny bit overworked in the these background shadows. Just a little bit, David. But the perspective is brilliant. The way that you got that, the figures. I know this is your style. Very good. Well done. Thanks, David. Doris. Oh, this is slightly out of focus, but we can make it out. Sue. Right, that perspective again, Doris. Now you've got the top sort of all right, and the building's going into the background. I would say that angle might be just a little bit too steep, possibly. It's a bit difficult to tell with the focus, but you've got in the parasols on the left-hand side. Perhaps this one here, this one on the corner here, needs to be a bit more like that. Okay, so we're kind of emphasizing the direction going around the corner. I like the figures that you've done. Very good. That green, the grass color, fantastic, and just the right color of shadow as well. And great palm trees also. Nice colorful scene. Nothing really overworked. I would also on these shadows maybe have a little bit more moisture on the brush so you don't get some dry brush marks in there. Well done, Doris. Edith. Now this one, we certainly do feel we're a little bit higher, which isn't a bad thing. Maybe in my painting I was on the first floor, but maybe you're on the second or third floor. Really, now what's creating that? Maybe it's the placement of the figures and that angle that you've got there. But very nice. I quite like the angle. I know. Oh, actually, your photograph has been. When you took the photograph, possibly you weren't looking down directly down on top of it. You were sort of more the bottom edge here was closer to the lens than the top edge, so we've got that slight sort of keystone type effect to it. But it doesn't matter. I actually quite like if it is in the real in the painting, that sort of leaning of the palm tree leaf, that leaning of the trunk of the palm tree. Great cut. I like colours down there. Very warm. Great figures as well. Telling a story, all different as well. I like that one there. Yeah, this is very nice, Edith. Perhaps a little bit overworked in the middle there. Not sure what's going on here. Maybe some of these white lines that you've put in. So that's a little bit confusing there in the middle, but everything else is very good. And looking down the scene, well done. Elsa. Great range of values, a lot of impact with this. Dark shadows. Perhaps we could have a little bit of a range of values. So those dark trees, for example, some of the palm trees. Some could be a little bit lighter. You've gone quite dark with them. Perspective. Yeah, I think it's there. Maybe again the base, that the top of the blinds needs to be about there, and then coming down a little bit left to right rather than yours is going slightly uphill like that. Just a tiny amendment on that. But I like all these here, the umbrellas, figures. Watch the figures as well with the whiteness around some of the figures. But well done. And just watch, maybe going a little bit too dark on a lot of those values in there. Esther, thank you for sending me your painting. Right, you got the perspective really good. That top of the building there, and the road coming down. Maybe a little bit overworked, Esther, with these brush marks that you've got in there. Figures are good. Watch the white border around some of the figures. I like the palm trees on this. They're very nice. Yeah, just the slight overworking of the shadows. Maybe have a bigger brush, I would say, Esther, on that one. All right, bigger brush, and that'll give you some nicer edges as well, rather than these. Maybe use too small a brush on some of those shadow areas. And in that area there, we can see a bit of the brush marks. These sort of lines happening there. Very nice placement of palm trees. I like those three on the right, the two there, and the three in the middle. Yes, well done. Well done, Esther. Right, Jeff S. Right, so it's nice composition. I like the groupings of these figures here, and it sort of mimics the shape of the buildings in the background. Perhaps with your brush, you need a sharper point. Not sure what all this area is in here, Jeff. Looks a little bit too confused what's going on in there. And also lose that the white bits around some of these figures also, particularly the legs of the figures, especially on the right hand side there, away from the sun. But nothing's overworked. Not sure about that tree in the middle. It's the same value as the background, so it doesn't really work. But everything else is really good. Yeah, well done, Jeff. Right, Ginger. Thanks for sending me your painting, Ginger. Now, you've got some nice colours. Good handling of the perspective. Tiny bit of overworking in this area here, I would say. Perhaps if the areas here were lighter and the grass area was lighter and the road surface was lighter, you're going to get more of an impact with the shadows. I like the figures though. They're really good. Sort of slim figures, quite small heads, but it doesn't matter. They're sort of really in tune with the style of the figures. And also possibly this grouping of parasols, if they were maybe moved up a little bit, just so that we got less area there, I think that might work from a composition point of view. Like the sky and like the trees. Well done, Ginger. Right, Gwen. Nice to have this framed, Gwen. That's a nice touch. It's got good impact, this painting. The perspective looks good to me there. Watch with the figures with that lighter area around them, like I said before. But the figures are good. They're just in the right proportion as well. So you've got the feeling of perspective and looking down on the scene. Bit difficult to see other details with the size of the photograph, but those buildings in the background, I like the colours on those. Perhaps that some of these trunks should be coming down here rather than right at the back of the building, or sort of sneaking behind the shop blinds. Yeah, well done, Gwen. Right, Heather B. So first of all, my eyes go to, well, you've got lots of figures again, like somebody, was it Dan? Dan, you're certainly up in the top scorers for number of figures. Yeah, just right, because it gives more of an atmosphere to the scene when you include lots of figures. And it's certainly not overdone. Good perspective. I like this over on the left-hand side here, the soft transition from the sky into the building. Nice soft. Maybe you could have gone in with a stronger value on the back of this building, but it's all nice and soft. Good shadows. Maybe just lose that circular bit there. Good shadows. Use of dry brush marks for the tires there. Yeah, but I'll go back to the trees. There's really nice trees. And also you've got some good edges on the grassy area there. Yeah, lovely. Well done, Heather. Next, Heidi. Right, so good perspective. Certainly got a feeling of looking down on the scene. Maybe we seem here a little bit higher than where I was, whereas I was on the first floor looking down. You may be on the second floor or third floor. Doesn't matter. All looks good. Maybe a bit too dark over here. Needs something going on just to say that it's, some cafes or bars or restaurants or something. I like this, the warmth that you've got on the back of that building. Beautiful red and going out into a cooler colour. And then these shadows. Maybe there's a hard transition here between the grass and the pavement. So maybe that needs some thinking about to try and make that transition softer, or put in some objects here. This umbrella on the right needs something underneath it to say that it's an umbrella, like a bit of shadow, something like that. Great figures. Those two on the right are superb, and nice pagodas, nice umbrellas. Very nice. Nothing overworked. Well done, Heidi. Henry, thanks very much for sending me your painting. A lively painting. I like the brush marks that you've got in. Standouts for me are those trees. Look at the way, the loose way that Henry's done those trees. Just a squiggle, a quick spontaneous mark made with a brush. Very nice indeed. And these lines, these brush marks going over the grass, the back, and over the shop blinds. I like the cafe there, and you've got some figures underneath here, and the figures all over the foreground. Yeah, those figures are really good. Maybe in places we got a little bit of too lighter area creeping in there, for example, but it's just minimal. Yeah, and it's at a funny angle in that I can sort of detect we're slightly, if you like, we're tilting our head to the left, and we're almost sort of panning in from right to left in a way. It's quite a nice way of looking at it. Yes, I like this one, Henry. Well done indeed. E and G. Right. Good. Now the composition. I think it needs to be higher. We've got a bit of a blank area on the right-hand side here. And so maybe this tower could, if that was more into the middle, also give a bit more definition to these umbrellas here, so that maybe if you know the edge of them, going in with a darker shadow behind, just to give a bit more definition. It's a bit difficult to see that they are umbrellas. Watch with the overworking of the shadows and go up to lose the whiter area around some of the figures here. This one, I wouldn't bother with that one. It's a bit difficult to see what that is down there, Ian, so I would probably lose that one. Trees, very nice though. I like those in the left-hand, top left-hand corner. Very nice. Yeah, I just think the whole thing needs to be, that background building needs to be sort of there. So move it over there and do away with this, or at least put some windows in here or something like that, just so that we know what it is. And possibly that pagoda, that umbrella needs a bit of a shadow underneath it. Yeah, get a better brush. It looks like your brush maybe a bit too small, or doesn't have a sharp edge or good point to it. So invest in a good brush there, Ian. But thanks very much for sending the painting. Very lively one. Right, Ingo. Right, so very tight style, this one, not loose, very precise. I don't know whether, Ingo, you were or have been or are an architect in some way, then that would maybe account for your very precise style. It's really well done. And look at the detail of the background buildings and these palm trees, and a bit of negative painting around these palm trees as well. They sort of make them pop out a bit more, stand out a bit more. But nice detail on the leaves and the fronds there, little details like that. Good composition. I personally probably wouldn't put the figures down there. You get away with all the other figures. These two, those figures are the standout figures for me, particularly the lady's long hair and the poise of those figures. Very nice indeed. Yeah, so this is more of a tighter painting, but it does work, and it certainly captures the essence of the scene. So well done on the detail work of the buildings, and I really like those trees, Ingo. Thank you. Isabel. Right, it's quite pale, this one. Quite a sort of coolish colour. Maybe it needs an injection of some colour somewhere. And also maybe those background buildings, that the lines are too perfect. Perhaps just destroy those lines a little bit more and have some differences in the heights of the buildings as an idea. But it's a good composition. Perspective is very good. The figures, you've done well for having some figures. Very brave of you to have some figures walking from side to side. And maybe those two are a little bit too far down the bottom right-hand corner, but it's always difficult to pull off good figures like that. Watch with the overworking of the shadows. They're good shadow shapes, but maybe in here a little bit too much of an overworking. Yeah, I just think it needs an injection of colour somewhere. I'm not sure if it was the photograph that maybe dulled it down a bit, but getting some warmer colours perhaps, or some yellows or warms in that background building, and also consider making this side of the building a bit darker, just so that you've got the range of values. Nice one, Isabel. Thank you very much. Right, James D. Right, my eye immediately goes to that bright patch of green there, the grass. A bit overworked here, I think. Nice background colour. Yeah, a bit overworked there. Perspective though, good. Yeah, that's really good. Very well painted umbrellas, pagodas. Maybe if the road was as bright as that grass, you'd get a stronger impact of the shadows, and the lights would appear lighter. The road would appear lighter. The darks would appear darker because of that difference. It's just down here, we're a little bit too dark in that bottom left-hand corner. My eyes keep going back to that really nice green that you've got in there. Perhaps if we had a similar value on the road, that would make this appear a brighter scene. But very well drawn, nice figures, and yeah, just a little bit of overworking there. But I really like that grass, that sort of lime green colour that you've got. Thank you, James. And John, I think we've got a few John B. Right, quite chunky figures that you've got down here, John. This guy's searching in his back pocket for his money, and this one, maybe these two have split up. They're not talking to each other. There's a little bit of a story going on here, but nice drawing with the building. So you've got the perspective good. Maybe these palm trees, I'd make the trunks a little bit narrower and the canopy fuller. The lightness, that maybe the pavement here needs to be a bit lighter as well. That'll make the shadows darker. You've done well with the shadows. Like the shadows going across the grass there as well. That looks all right. And perhaps we could have a little bit of a darker colour there and more warmth over here. So it does, yes, I think like a previous one, it does need a bit more warmth added into it, rather than being a bit too pale in this area here. And just watch those figures, John. They're nice figures, but like the legs here, maybe a little bit too big, and the shoulders of this one, maybe a little bit too big. So practice your figures. The other figures are brilliant there in the middle ground. They're really good. Especially like that group there. Yeah, well done, John B. John D. Now, different style, very loose, lots of cool blues in the background. That's sort of a cobalt blue. My first impression, my first impression, very loose. But look at the effects that John D has managed to get into the scene. So John's moved the horizon further up the scene. So whereas I and probably many others, the horizon was sort of there, John's is almost there in a way, a lot higher up. So you've got more foreground. You've got about a third, almost half of the painting as that foreground. So we can see the expanse of this area extending beyond us. And you've incorporated lots of different watercolor techniques. So well done. All the splattering that we've got going on is not overdone. With some clear water, and then splashing with paint, bit of lifting off, maybe dry brush marks as well. But you've got a lot of atmosphere with the brush marks that you've got, particularly in this area here. That works really well. Yeah, very loose. Well done, John. And John DE, so different again. Soft lines. There's no hard lines in this one, which works. That's John DE's style. Like the trees, soft colours. Maybe I'm not so sure about the body paint of the orange and yellow here. Great figures. Yeah, some of the orange, I think if you didn't bother doing that, John, that would be better. But I like the shadows going across the grass. Good colours. Yeah, just yeah. The figures are brilliant. Those figures are especially nice. Really good. Yeah. Just watch the body paint a bit. Great palm trees also. And you've got funny sort of diagonal lines on the paper. It's quite unusual paper there. Quite striking. Okay, well done, John DE. Right, John S. So, first impression, yellow. Look at yellow buildings, they work. Maybe this area is a little bit difficult to see what's going on here as regards our transition over to the left. Perhaps there needs to be a bit more of a darker valley behind those pagodas to give some form to them. Also, the shadows down there a little bit too vivid. Perhaps the shadows would be more. This might be in the shade a little bit, and then coming from the blinds behind, that would be in the shade. Something like that, perhaps. These blinds in the back, they need some supports or something just to make them more convincing and a bit more interesting as regards. It looks a little bit empty, if you see what I mean. But lovely watercolor, nice sky, and I really like that background building, the yellow colour of that building. Yep, so well done, and a good idea for including, I think from a composition point of view, good idea having these two down here in the right-hand corner. That is, to me, just looking at it, can't put my finger on it, but just the balance of those two, that angle that you've got there, the angle there, there's quite a good balance to it. Well done, John S. Joy. Right. So fairly cool. I think it needs some more warmth in there. Some yellows or reds, perhaps in maybe the underlying wash. But it's a good composition. You've got the perspective right of the buildings, these umbrellas as well. Maybe you need to be a bit darker on the shady side of these umbrellas, just to make them shout at us more as regards being umbrellas, if you see what I mean. And that one there, if I can draw it with the mouse, you get the idea. And then, like I said before, trying to get in the sort of outline shape of those with the shade behind it. Great figures. And this is what watercolor does. You've got some nice effects there. That looks really nice, Joy. And also those group of figures there, they've caught my eye. They're two very good parts of your painting, in my opinion. And the trees, not overworked, especially these. Yeah, so quite soft. Not too bright, but it works. Well done, Joy. Next one up, Judith. So, Judith, we can... Yeah, it's a slightly smaller photograph. You've photographed it in a sort of portrait orientation, but we can see what's going on here. So, good strong lines. Almost horizontal with the base of those buildings. It looks good. Nice group of pagodas on the left. Perhaps the brush marks are a little bit too dry, but you've got the idea about the pattern, but maybe some of these brush marks are a little bit too dry. Not sure if you use some white paint on some of the marks in the foreground. It's in the background there. So I would probably ease off on some of that white paint. But look, this is a nice painting. Very precisely done. Good colours. Just my point about maybe some of these dry brush marks, and I'm not sure if I can't really see because of the size of the image, whether there was some scratching out of the paper but you've got some nice marks here on the pavement. I like all those. We've got a feeling of the light hitting something there on the pavement. Works really well. Well done, Judith. Next up, Kay. So, Kay, you've made more of a feature of those cafes on the left-hand side. I like the way that you've painted these pagodas with a sort of a lightish sort of rib down some of them, and you've certainly got the feeling of these umbrellas not being too perfect there. They're sort of sagging a little bit there. Then you've got the different values into the shady parts. Well done. Not so sure about that area there, but certainly under here you've got the impression of a busy cafe scene, chairs lined up, people here as well. Figures for you are brilliant. I love all your figures. They're very, very good. Yeah, it's a nice scene. And also the other thing, also with yours, okay, we've got the feeling of the length of that alleyway there and receding to the distance and that's emphasized with, I think, the way that you've done the blinds. You've got some wider blinds here, obviously going narrower as we go into the distance, and they're becoming more difficult to discern where one blind stops and the next one starts. So great feeling of that pathway going around there. Very good handling of perspective. That's brilliant. And great colours, good values, nothing overworked. I like this side here, that shady building. Yeah. Nice one, Kay. Very nice indeed. Good figures. Kazim. Again, good figures on this. Those three there, brilliant. Nice attention to detail with the corners of these pagodas. Good trees as well. Perhaps a little bit too dry with the brush, possibly on the building, on the surface of the building. That's better. That's better there, Kazim. Nice bright yellow of the grass. Good shadow shapes, nice, very convincing shadow shapes from those pagodas. And also down here, what watercolor does, the effects that you've got here of some, almost like soft light going through these pagodas, those umbrellas. That works really well. Well done, Kazim. Lani. Right, now, good composition, good perspective. Just think the figures could be improved. Some of the figures have got these white borders around them. Some of these figures, and also what these lines are around the figures. Almost, I'm not sure whether you went over or around these figures, maybe with a darker color. And then some of these heads looking a bit odd here, here, Lani. But other figures are brilliant. Like that one there. That is a brilliant figure. That one there, brilliant. This right-hand figure, brilliant. Brave, getting the figures going, walking from side to side. Yeah, it's just the outline. It's some of them are light, some are dark. Looks a little bit odd. But other than that, you've got a great feeling of light coming across the scene, and you've painted and you've drawn the blinds very well. Good job on the trees, the perspective, light the sky. Yeah, just those figures there, Lanny. Thanks very much. Larry C, quite a small photo, but we can sort of see what's going on. Good handling of perspective, great colours, got a yellow and the red building there. These pagodas look good to me as well. Just watch the overworking. I can just about see, because of the size photo, just watch with the overworking of these certain areas. I like some of the figures. That figure there looks like it's got a bit of movement. And this figure here, but watch, as with Lanny's, just watch with the darker area and some of the figures. I like that one. Also looks like that figure is finding it difficult carrying those bags, shopping bags or whatever. Yeah, well done, Larry. Next up is Lauren. Very bright scene. Not a great range of values. I like the circular pattern that you've got into some of those umbrellas. That works really well, Lauren. Figures are good. Not so sure about this building in the middle. So whereas I think in the photograph the edge was sort of there, so that was grass, and then this was the street. So you've got those buildings coming down there, but I'm not so sure. Maybe it needs some more values in this painting. Maybe it needs stronger values on the back, just slightly darker, and then maybe slightly darker in certain areas underneath that building, and then going off to the back, the shadow of the building. Perhaps that might work, giving it a better different. Like you've done superbly well with those umbrellas there. The definition of those, the edges, these shadows are brilliant. Figures are brilliant. Yeah, just my feeling about in certain areas the strength of the values and the definition of some of the objects. Thanks very much, Lauren. Lefteris. Lovely warm colours, beautiful range of values as well. Yeah, I like this. It's got a lot of atmosphere about it. My eyes, first of all, went over to this area. We've got the light. Look how light that blind looks. How nice that looks against the darker background. And the colours that Lefteris has got into the background building. Maybe a little bit too yellow on some building, but perhaps some of them could be a little bit more white, so to speak. But it works. We're trying to create a piece of art, not copying the photograph exactly. Great figures. They're all nice. Those pagodas as well. Yeah, I like this, Lefteris. You've included lots of nice colours into this picture and some very lively shadows as well, particularly in that area there. Very nice. Well done. And dry brush marks on that palm tree give a bit more of an atmosphere to that tree. Well done. Right, Leslie W. So from a composition point of view, I'm not sure, but the right-hand side here looks a little bit blank. We need something over there, maybe something, a background or something like that to fill in that white space. But you've got the perspective pretty much there, I reckon. It certainly does have the feeling of looking down on the scene. Look out for the white areas, the white borders around some of these figures and these white lines. They probably, it doesn't look quite right, these whiter bits here, in amongst the shadows. But I like the pagodas, very nice, good edges around those. The figures are nice, albeit with just those white marks around them. Great colours in that building, that gorgeous yellow in there, and the soft move, the soft transition to the other buildings as well. Yep, so nothing. I don't think anything's overworked here. Really loose. I like that tree. Just watch using too much white paint around it. I like that tree. And also here, on the back of the building, how Leslie has got the back of the building, but connected to it is a tree. Good idea. So we've just got the silhouette of the tree behind something else going on. Yeah, it just needs something over here, buildings or something like that, just to fill in that space there. Ah, well done, Leslie. Linda D. Right, very loose. Composition-wise, not too bad. I think the right-hand side needs something over here, Leslie. But it's very loose. The watercolor techniques are nothing overworked. The background, the shady part of the building there looks really nice. Palm trees, yeah, they're good. Figures, good. They're all in proportion to each other. Certainly got a feeling of that perspective. Figures I particularly like. That one there. Oh, watch with the shadow. Just making sure the shadows connect with the figures, and that shadow there should go that way. Not that most people would notice. I like these two. I especially like that figure on the right-hand side. That's a good figure there. Yeah, maybe these stools are not needed underneath, because if you squinted your eyes, you could hardly notice them. I kept mine quite loose down there in the bottom left-hand corner. Yeah, I'd really like those the colours that you've got into the shadows in the shady part of that wall. Very effective. Yeah, very colourful scene. Just a perfect, crisp, fresh watercolour. Well done. And Lindsay F. Right. So you've made more of a feature of these palm trees. Maybe they're just a little bit too big for the scene. Watch this whole bottom left-hand corner there being a tiny bit over it and not really being able to see the structure of the umbrellas. We can just about make out a few here in the foreground, but then it gets a little bit confusing. But good perspective, very good perspective, in fact, there. And that line there, very good, Lindsay. Nice figures as well, those two looking on. You've got those balls in there, which a few people have got, the balls going around the road. Yeah, it just needs a little bit more light in it, maybe, to give the feeling of a bit more light, and maybe ease down on the size of those palm trees, and get with the palm trees, try and have a less dense canopy, but more of these arching fronds, maybe a few more in the middle, and then the older branches leaf out, and then the really old ones, they're like, sort of leaning down there close to the trunk. So you get that sort of effect. Quite dense at the top though, with the fresh fronds at the top. Thanks very much, Lindsay. Right, Liz B. Yeah, I actually quite like the effect that you've got in over here, it actually still looks quite bright, even though you might have worked at it a bit to try and get that effect, that soft effect of the sky going into the buildings. For me, that works quite well. Yeah, that's the key part of this. Paint a little bit of light there as well. That's nice. I think you've gone over you've done maybe 2 initial washes, so I can detect the first wash there, and then this colour here is the second wash, maybe. Good figures. They're really nice figures. Perhaps these down the bottom, they're too, in my mind, too far down towards the bottom. Good placement of the pagodas. Watch with a tiny bit of overworking of some of the darkers, and also don't make the shadows too grey. Maybe they just need a touch more colour in them, a blue or a red, possibly. Yeah, I think that'll be. But I like the effect that you've got up here. That sort of soft shadows, shall I call it, and that soft edge there. That's quite nice as well. Good palm trees also. Yeah, well done, Liz. Well done. Liddy M. Oh, I like the sign out. Oh, nice mounting around this. Beautiful. I've just noticed the art fair, which would be very appropriate for the region. You can imagine there being lots of paintings for sale underneath the coverings here. So perspective, good. You've got more of a feeling of a curve here, almost sort of coming back on itself in a way, like going around a sort of circular square, a circular enclosed area. On the pagodas, now watch the angle of some of these pagodas, like this one here. Perhaps that edge needs to be a bit like that. And then this one, a bit like that, if we're looking down on them a little bit. Yeah, just tie that a bit, but I like the idea of the art fair. Good figures also. Good bit of splattering, use different watercolor techniques on the ground. Yeah, I like the colours that you got into the figures. Really makes them more interesting. Maybe some in the background are just a little bit too bright. They could be dulled down, maybe just glazed over a bit, Liddy, except maybe their faces, but just to push them back a little bit more. The palm tree's good. Yeah, nothing's really overworked, except possibly the background there. Just that could have been done all in one. But I like the effect of the sky, these lines, sort of mimicking this being a reflection of that, a mirror image of that, and these soft reflections of the palm trees across the blinds and going up. Yeah, well done. Well done, Liddy. Right, next one, Marcello. Hopefully I pronounced your name okay. Right, first noticed, it's not straight, that building, and then this one is a bit of a curve to it as well. I like that. It adds an extra dimension to it, whereas everyone else, me included, we were thinking, oh, it's got to be a straight line. That's got to be a perfect straight line. But you've gone in for that little bit of a curve, and it sort of accentuates the point there of that. Like the trees, these palm trees are brilliant. They've got some form to them, some depth to them. Lovely. Shadows, very nice. Like the figures. Those 4 figures there are brilliant. Yes, this is very nice. Not sure what those lines are there are coming off that figure, but this is a nice loose painting, nothing overworked, great colours that you've got in there. Especially that sky colour is fantastic. It's just right for the day, and against a nice complementary Cool colour against the warmth of the building. Yeah, nice one, Marcello. Maria H. Right, soft look to this one. Perspective is good. Nice geometric shape of these pagodas on the left-hand side. Figures on the whole are very good, maybe apart from this one here, but I like that one. Yeah, just watch a bit of overworking of some of the shadows. Maybe try and make the street lighter in colour so the shadows look darker. I like those palm trees, those fan palm trees there are very realistic. Good job on the buildings. Now, shadows of those palm trees, the shadows would travel up the blinds and then they would go more vertical rather than angular there. So watch that. Yeah, it just looks a little bit odd. Unless possibly the trees were more over to the left and the sunlight was more, the sun was more in the east, and possibly then you might get a slight angle on it, but on the whole it's going to go up there. I like that grass, the green that you've got there. That looks very convincing, Maria. And nice shadows going across. Yeah, very nice. A little bit confused underneath there. I'm not sure what's going on with these vertical marks. But overall, very nice. Lovely sky as well. Graded, a graded sort of wash from light to dark. Yeah, well done. Mary I or L. Mary, how many mirrors have we got? Oh, anyone, Mary. Very bold, loose. Possibly the shadows, some of the shadows are a little bit too dark, possibly. Not sure whether that was me leading you on with trying to go too dark with those shadows. But it's really loose. I especially like the top half of this painting, all of that. That building, nothing overworked, great colours, these trees, just simple brush marks, the brevity of the brush marks, brilliant. I say just practice some of your figures. The heads are maybe a little bit too big. These figures are all right. They're brilliant, but some of the other, yeah, just those two there, they look a little bit odd, Mary. Yeah, very nice. Nice loose painting, nothing overworked, just a bit too dark with some of those shadows there. Right, Max, well, small photo, but we can make out what's going on. I can't zoom in, otherwise we'll go out of focus, but good figures. Nice, we got that. That's from a composition point of view. Don't know whether it's deliberate, but that line of figures there, those strong line of figures that lead us up that way or lead us up the side of the building. Good perspective, great colours, especially on the back of that building. Nice palm trees. Yeah, I think you've done well with this one, Max. Good shadows. We've got the sort of fan shape of the shadows coming out. That's really nice. Yeah, well done. On to the next, if I can find the next one. Right, Michael R. Right. Loose, they've got a square. You've got a square kind of dimensions to a square layout to this picture. Don't think there are many others that went sort of that kind of size. But it works. Just means you've got to be more careful in how you squeeze in the scene. But you've managed to do it. Perhaps that the grass could have been a bit lighter on the right-hand side over there. But the values are right. It's loose. Nothing is really overworked. I would use a bigger brush. I'm detecting quite a small brush for some of the shadows. Use a bigger brush. and practice your figures, and also watch this white border around the figures there. This guy, these, yeah, just particularly over the body and the legs. Go over with the streak colour and make those figures will look okay, but particularly the lower half, just cover over with the initial the initial wash there. Right, Nancy B. Loose, like the sky. I mean, some people complain about blooms and cauliflowers, but I like that. It's giving the sky some texture, some atmosphere to it. Perspective, yeah, looks okay. Watch this. That needs to be a straighter line, I reckon, rather than a bit of a curve. Not sure what's going on here. Perhaps that blind needs to be a little bit lower. But certainly got a feeling of the curve. Great figures. Maybe a sharper point to some of these blinds, but you've certainly got the feeling of going around the scene, Nancy. Well done on that. Nice warm colour of the street. These figures are great. Let me pick out some really good ones. Well, I like, well, these two figures here are really nice. Again, watch out with figures painting around the legs with the wash and leaving that whitish area there. You've almost got away with it, but just watch a few of them there. But I like those figures down there. Nice colour of the green, good, bold shadows going over the green, and great colour on the back of that building. Loose trees. Yeah, well done. Oh, watch the shadows going up the building from the palm tree. So up, and then palm tree shadows like that up the wall. Well done, Nancy. Right, next one. Oh, Nancy N. Two Nancy's. Nancy B. Nancy N. Yeah, very colourful, loose. You've got, like the other Nancy, you've got some, your blooms are in the bottom part of the picture. And I quite like all this. But again, just watch nearly a lot of people have done this with the figures, painting around the figures. I go over these figures, all right, like you did there. This figure here, brilliant. That figure, brilliant. Maybe we could have a few more smaller figures in here, random, just to make it a little bit more interesting. Shadows, just watch the shadows. Yeah, maybe we wouldn't have this angular bit. We just have shadow going out. Shadows going out, all right. But they're the right value. And that street, the colour of that street, oh, it's fantastic. That's just what watercolour does. All these little bits of the marks that you're getting there, and the blending that you're getting, these hard marks. Some people might suddenly wash that out, but it looks, to me, it looks fantastic. Yeah, well done. Thanks very much, Nancy. Pat C. Pat, this is very nice. You've got a feeling of countryside in the distance, which is all right. Very bright scene. We've got a feeling of dappled sunlight coming through on tops of a lot of the figures, which I think is excellent. The way that you've placed those trees there, that dominant tree looking as if it's casting a bit of shadow across the top. These pagodas, umbrellas are brilliant with that little gap at the end there. Great figures as well. Yeah, very, very nice. I can't fault this at all. The sky I like. Yeah, nice one, Pat. Well done. Right, Patty K. Good building. Interesting shape to the top. You've kept the values just right in the distance. Distant buildings over there, just right. You're connecting things, the background, shady part of that wall to the foliage there. Great shadows going across there. Nice shadows going across the street. Watch the lighter area around these figures as well. But that figure's all right. I like that figure. And this one, leaning and sort of got some motion about it. Certainly perspective here is very, very good. Well done, Patty. Next up, Peter T. Right. Composition-wise, I was going to say we've missed the top of that building there, but I don't think it really matters because we're not seeing the top of that building anyway. But you've got it sort of that building more off the left of centre. You made this building a little bit shorter. So I think overall that works. Now I like the way you've done the sky, the buildings. Perhaps as we get in towards the middle, in my mind, just a little bit overworked, or maybe it's the too much white paint, which I do myself. I do that sometimes. I overdo it with the white paint, and you just sometimes then end up with a mess. I've had some disasters, I can tell you. But yeah, just a little bit too much white paint, and perhaps we've got a feeling of these pagodas here a little bit too flat, perhaps. I mean, these near ones look okay. They're good, Peter, but as we go further away, look a little bit flatter. Yeah, just a bit overworked in the middle there. And the figures, these figures are good, but some of them have got a bit of, again, too much white around them. They don't need it. Maybe if they had brighter clothing, white on a darker background or darker. You've got to look at any photograph and you can generally see that if it's a summer scene, maybe they've got lighter clothing, a winter scene, mainly dark clothing or quite almost black in a way. But nice little figures there. Well done for doing that. And yeah, we got, I know I said it's overworked, but we've got the feeling of things going on there, people, objects, chairs, tables. Let me just remove that drawing. Yeah, certainly we've got a feeling of it going, but just a tiny bit too much white paint. Other than that, brilliant. And also, you've included a lot of that right-hand building, which you've done. I like that, the way you've done the windows. Yeah, very good. Well done, Peter. Philip L. Gorgeous colour in that background building. And we've got with the perspective, notice how we've got quite a hard line here, but it goes quite soft in the middle ground, almost like there's a bit of mist or haziness or heat coming up from the ground. Now also, I detect you haven't done any drawing. Have you actually used the pencil? Have you actually done an outline drawing at all? But certainly around here, unless you rubbed it out, I think it looks quite nice, that fresh appearance of those pagodas, the way you've done the shadows, that really works. These figures down here, the figures are brilliant. They've got movement. I've circled there the two outstanding groups. I know they're walking away. I would generally tend to shy away from that, try and have them walking in, but it can be difficult to taking figures like that and then imagine them going in a different direction. It can be quite tricky. Great colours, nice way that you've done the trees, very loose. Bit of body paint for the green there, which also works at the base of that building. And almost like a sepia colour on the right-hand side. Yeah, great range of colours, great range of values, nice and fresh, nothing overworked. Well done, Philip. Ravi B. A nice pinkish glow to this. Perspective good. Maybe the top of this building just a little bit too straight. Introduce some quirky little lines here and there, or at least put something on the roof just to little satellite dishes or aerials or something, or just invent a chimney like you've got over there. But the perspective is brilliant on this Ravi. You've got quite a lot of figures in there. The shadows look a little bit too jumbled. Maybe you did it with a small brush. Use a bigger brush. Go for boldness. Now, the standout for me is that background wall. That is superb. Brilliant. Those trees there. It looks like there's a bit of shadow behind those trees. Like the lights come here. It's bounced against this wall here, and it's come back in here, and it's throwing this strong late afternoon light into throwing a soft shadow against those trees. Very effective. Well done, Ravi. Another Ravi N. Great feeling of perspective on this. You really feel the strength of that corner. Now watch that white line at the base of the building. Just have a transition of coming down and then maybe I detect it's quite dark at the base of that building, and then you get these shadows going across the grass there. I like these blinds that you've got as well, going up the street. Good feeling of perspective there, and you've got some different stripes and colours on those blinds. Nice figures. These two down here with the dark glasses, fantastic. Well done, Ravi. Next one, Richard B. Right, quite soft. Very sort of purplish with the shadows, which is all right. Just be careful not to use the white paint just a little bit too much, but I think you got away with it. Good job on the perspective. These trees, good. These trees may be, not sure exactly. Yeah, they're all right. They're all right. I was going to be a bit critical of them being fan palm trees, but they're all right. Watch the base being just a little bit overworked down there, and maybe could have gone a bit darker as well. The shadows are good. Figures are good. I like these figures here. Yeah, you've certainly got a good handling of the perspective and good shadows. Nothing, apart from this area here, nothing overworked. But well done, Richard. And Rosa. Wow. So you have, like one or two others, you've made more of a feature of this cafe scene, and you brought it more into the middle of the composition. And that works really well. This is fantastic. You've got different umbrellas there as well. The actual angle of these palm trees, those are going that way. These are going that way. Accentuating with the shadows. We've got some nice patterns being created. The shadows, fantastic. Those two figures, they're over on the left-hand side. I know I've mentioned that on previous occasions. In my mind, trying to have more detailed figures on the edges of your painting for me is a little bit of a no-no. The thing I've done in the past, having parts of figures or parts of cars, but I think I get away with it. Maybe the photograph doesn't do this painting justice. I think you've got some lovely bright colours in here. I would love to maybe click on that button there and try to amend it. Yeah, different. I think what works with this is the different shapes and different colours. I keep looking back at that umbrella. I don't think that was in the photograph. I'm not sure, but it works. Brilliant. Well done, Rosa. Rosella. Nice bright sky. Certainly feeling a brightness with this. Just the right values on that grass and the street. Great figures. Perspective, brilliant on this. Well done. Nice and loose, nothing overworked. I think you've got that same leaning figure that I had, Rosella, that red figure. Maybe some of these figures, I'm not sure whether I did, but maybe just try and give the impression of some arms on them, just to, make it a little bit more realistic. But certainly you got the feeling of the perspective, nice pagodas, just the right value, good shadows as well. But the actual contrast, the cooler the sky and the warmer the buildings works really well. Nice shade and shadows on the back of that building as well. Well done, Rosella. Sardia, nice. Got a bit of a lean to that building. That doesn't matter. Good perspective, good drawing, good feeling of the angle of the road. Maybe the photograph is not. I bet the actual painting again here is a lot brighter than this. I like the little marks that you've left in the background as well. These little sparkles, nice shadows going across the grass. Good figures as well. Nice figures. You've not got those sort of borders around the figures. Yeah, this is very good. Perhaps with the palm tree, the fronds could be a little bit longer, a bit more arching, like you've done on the right-hand side, maybe on the left-hand side there. But very nice picture side and nice shadows of the palm trees going up the building as well. Sally P. Nice composition. We've got certainly got a strong feeling of the blinds and umbrellas. You've inserted some little smaller umbrellas, I think, between one side of the street and the other. I like the palm trees. I like that one on the left that's sort of merging with it's bleeding into part of the building. That works really well. Maybe some of the shadows of I guess this palm tree being in the middle, the shadow would go that way. Yeah, nice colour of the grass there. Very loose. Not overworked, apart from maybe just a tiny bit. I don't know whether you used a bit of white paint down here, Sally, a tiny bit, but just be careful with that. Nice, I like the figures. The way that you've got some very confident brush marks in some of these figures, that works really well. Yeah, very nice figures. Lovely. And I keep looking back at that tree and the way it's merging into the building. I like that. Well done. And Sandra M. Very bright. Yeah, that's probably one of the brightest entries that I've looked at. Good colours, good handling and perspective. Whilst these pagodas, these umbrellas aren't strictly, some of them, correct, but they work. These sort of geometric shapes that you've got. Again, just be careful with too much white paint. It doesn't necessarily need it. Nice colours on those shadows, but try and do them all in one. It looks like you might have laboured on some a bit too much, a tiny bit too much, but nice way of throwing the figures into contrast with the darker shadows behind those lighter figures. Excellent two figures on the right-hand side. Well done, Sandra. And Shane, great picture. I like the figures you've got in yours. Yeah, I particularly like those two there. And we can just sense something going on. Well, there's not a lot of detail underneath those, but we sense something going on in there. Great feeling of perspective. You've got some nice colours on those blinds and the buildings. A more interesting building shape. And you've actually got some lighter bits to the background there, which may not have been in the source photo, but I think that sort of works from a composition point of view. Yeah, great colours. Notice the shadows here, no black or grey. They're interesting shadows. They're on the whole, they're cooler shadows, I think. These palm trees are brilliant as well, Shane. They're really nice. Thanks very much. And Sean. Right. Perspective. We're nearly there. Maybe a funny angle of that. Blind there. These pagodas are a little bit too pointed, bit too much like a pyramid, but they're all right. Try and make your shadows, don't overwork them too much. These shadows over here are fantastic. Shadows down here, though, Sean, a little bit more overworked, in my opinion. And some of the figures, they got the legs are a little bit too chunky. Now, those figures there, they are very, very good. But some of the other figures, like those there, they're maybe the head's tiny bit too big, so the legs are a little bit too big. Notice how you did those. The legs are thinner. Got some movement. Like this figure on the left, we can only see one leg. The left leg merges into the right leg. It works. Yeah, other than that, very nice. Well done, Sean. Sheila L. Very dramatic shadows, nice composition. Watch too much detail down here. Looks like a bit like the Last Supper going on down here. Maybe dispense with all that, Sheila. Too much detail down there. And also watch with the sizes of figures. Now all the figures are great, apart from maybe these two, a bit too big. If they were moved down a bit, you might get away with it, because with the perspective, remember, we were trying to have the distant figures, their heads higher than the heads of the figures in the front. So they all work apart from those two. Everything else, other aspects of perspective is very nice. The way that you've done the buildings, great colours. Really well done. Like several other people, really well done on the shadow on the back of that building. I like the effects that you've got in there. Very nice. And palm trees are also good as well. Yeah, well done, Sheila. Just watch that detail down in the bottom left-hand corner and the proportions of some of the figures. Right, Shiva Kumar. Yeah, very dramatic. Quite sort of greenish as an overall hue. Perspective is on the left-hand side is brilliant, but on the right-hand side, I think we need that building going up like that. The top of it is good, but the bottom we need to be going up like that. And so we've got more of a brighter area there with the grass and the shadows going across. Figures. Now the figures, a bit like Sheila's, you've got a mixture of sort of large and small ones. You start by placing one lot of figures and then try and do the rest in relation to that. So these are about the right size, I reckon. That's good. These are good. But then, and these might be all right, but these are a bit too small. They need to be a bit bigger, unless it's a group of school kids coming through, of course. Watch for the shadows, don't go too dark on those. But nice colours, nice handling of that sky. That sky is beautiful, very nice. Well laid down, nice, confident, and that building as well. And the way you did the street as well. Nice. So just my point about the base of that building there, Shivakumar. Thanks very much indeed. Thank you. And Sylvia. Yeah, I like the little dabs of blue that you've got in. There's blue, like a cobalt blue in the street, and then it's picked up on the colours of some of the figures. I quite like that. Perspective-wise, yeah, good. Not so sure, Sylvia, about the background building here. Maybe it needs to be Less bits of white that are showing through, less bits of the paper, so more of a more complete covering of that area. But these pagodas are good. We're missing maybe a few bold shadows going across and blocking in this area here, making all that dark. But great colours. Good job on the sky, light on this side, darker on that side. Bit of granulation happening with the sky as well, another watercolour effect with certain pigments. Very nice. Nothing overworked. Yeah, just by comment about the area down there, that bottom left corner and over to the top right as well. But great figures. I like those two figures on the right and that use of that blue. Well done, Sylvia. Telsha, very bold, very bright. I like these lines that you've done. Probably that was, you did that after the initial painting. I know a few people do that. They almost like a pen and wash, and they use that to emphasize. Sometimes the pen might go down first, sometimes it might be afterwards, but it actually really works. It maybe have more appearance of a sketch, like an urban sketcher might do. But it's nice the way that you put those lines in there. Perspective, very good. I think it all works. Nice figures as well. I like those in the bottom right hand corner. I think the photograph maybe is a little bit too dark that you took. I'm sure the colours are brighter, but good range of values, nothing overworked. Oh yeah, watch this guy down here. I probably wouldn't have these figures cut off in half, just my own opinion. So it works all right for a photograph, but maybe not for a painting. Nice trees as well, particularly that one there. Lovely. Well done, Telsha. And Ting. Good shape of the buildings. You've included a lot more shadow in those buildings to make them a bit more interesting. I think that works. Watch the line of the shadows of the palm trees going vertically up so angular and then vertical up there. Not so sure about some of that white stuff there, unless they were very bright windows, maybe catching the light. Nice shade of green, very nice green, and the shadow going across the green. Good colour there, good transition from the lighter colour going a little bit dark towards the base, and then that darker green going across. That's very good. Good figures as well. I like this one. The arms behind the back. Do you see that? Very nice touch. The typical sort of figure, a portly gentleman walking up the street. Great. Nice shape of those. Maybe a tiny bit too much like a pyramid, maybe a bit too high, but they're all right. And good shadows from those as well. And nice, just the right values you've got, Ting, on all of the different areas of the scene. Yeah, well done. Particularly nice grass, that nice colour of that grass. Well done. Get rid of my drawing tool. Right, Tony E. Bright colours. Look at the colour on that building. Maybe a bit too overworked on the right-hand side, but certainly on the left-hand side, very nice. You've got the shape of those pagodas about right. Watch this confused shadow marks here, and also going a little bit too dark and maybe a bit too long with some of these shadows from the pagodas. Figures, these are very good. Yeah, the figures are all right, actually. Got a bit of movement. They're all different poses with them. Maybe that blind is a little bit too bright. Nice rich green there. I love that green. It sort of sits well with those colours on the left-hand side. Trees, very good as well. Possibly not so sure what all these shadows are. Yeah, it should have been all sort of soft really in there. That looks like a lady with carrying an urn or something on her head, and there's the arm to me when I look more closely at it. I'm not sure if that was your intention, but great colours, nice colours, just the right values on this one, Tony, and a gorgeous green. Well done. Right, Tony R. So you've gone for more of a squarish scene. You've pushed the top of the building, almost touching the top of the paper. That's all right, which allows you to squeeze in that foreground. Was it your intention to leave always 50-50 about actually having like a sort of not going up, not painting up to the side of the paper, and you're just leaving a little bit of the paper unpainted on the edges? Not so sure about that myself. Whether it'd be better just to push it up, push it over there. But overall, you've got a good feeling of perspective, good values, nice watercolor techniques. You've sneaked in. Maybe you could have had a bit more of a background buildings in the on the right hand side there. Figures, nice figures, all different colours. Just the right sizes as well. Yeah, very nice indeed, Tony. Yeah, just my point about this blank area here on the left hand side, or maybe this building as well. Just include a few windows just to say that it is a building to the viewer. Next workshop then will be on September the 26th at 4 p.m. UK, where we are going to be painting together over approximately a couple of hours this scene from Staithes in North Yorkshire. A very pretty village on the coast, the river here, River Beck, going down to the sea, down to our bottom left, but almost like a contre-jour scene, looking against the light catching the rooftops. We've got some boats in there as well. I'm not decided yet whether I'm going to do this portrait layout or landscape layout. This is more of a squarish picture, so we've got a choice of the two, but trying to capture the light and also the soft reflections in the river. Look at those lovely reflections in the river then. The sky, a bit of the sky showing through as well, boat shapes. We may include some figures as well. So I'd love you, if you're into watercolor, want to paint with other people, want to get a critique, love to have you on the workshop. All of the information, if you click on the link in the description of this video down below, you'll see all the details and the registration information and what you need to take part. Love to see you there. Speak to you soon.